We're now conducting the final interview for HIST324, and would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself today?
My name is Don Cooper, and I am the grandfather of Nico Berroa, who's asking these questions and shooting this film.
All right, well now we're going to go ahead and ask you the first question of the interview, and we're wondering when did you first know you were interested in sports?
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, and as a little kid we used to go out to a park that was kind of near our house in the neighborhood, and as far back as I can remember, we were always kicking a football in the fall and playing baseball or softball in the spring and summer. So, and then I got involved in YMCA and learned to swim, and so I had exposure to other sports, but that was probably my earliest recollection.
All right, and I'd also like to ask, who was the most important athlete when you were young?
Well, growing up in Chicago, I think it was probably, and even though I was on the south side and I should have been rooting for the White Sox, who were on the south side, we were always Bear fans in football and Cub fans, which were on the north side of Chicago. So Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, was the foremost athlete in my mind as I grew up.
All right, and how were sports different in your day?
Well, they were, I would say, a lot less commercialized. We began to be introduced to sports in the public schools, and it was kind of looked on as both a part of physical fitness and development, and each school, of course, as it is today, would follow their team as a means of supporting the school and showing pride in the school. So I think that probably hasn't changed all that much, but that was the primary reason for school sports back in those days.
And if you were talking with an athlete, or if you were actually speaking to an athlete about this, how would you say preparation for a game has changed over the years?
Well, the one major thing in my mind is that preseason training and physical fitness has really properly risen to a much higher level than it was in my day. I'm an old codger, 72 years old, and everybody just got involved in sports because they were blessed to be coordinated and they were good in sports, or they just didn't show any personal interest. But I can remember I didn't play any football in high school, but I did play football in junior college, and then in the university that I went to after junior college. And in neither case, this is astounding to me, in neither case was there any emphasis there were no weight rooms or workout rooms. So just developing our bodies and strengthening our muscles and getting us ready for especially with football, with a contact sport. We did some running. I played baseball. We did some running, but I got hurt on several occasions. I wasn't a very big guy, and getting blasted in football, it astounds me as I look back even further back than my day, where they didn't have masks, or football helmets with attached masks. There was just the leather helmet, and then they started to introduce the single bar across the helmet. That was helpful from getting your face smashed in, and but then they eventually developed almost cage type masks for linemen particularly. it was just a concern not to have visual instruction for the running backs and the receivers and stuff. But that's the one huge thing that immediately comes to my mind. I wish that I had the opportunity and the emphasis put upon to develop my physical structure and my muscle structure more, and to be more prepared for games. I think injury rates were a lot higher back in those days.
Now, how would you say the relationships between teams and fans have changed over the years?
Well, there's always pride in your school team. I think that's pretty much stayed the same. There's been a much greater personalization. I mean, you watch certain pro games, and you have it some in the college level too, but you got some of the crazies, like in Michigan State, John Spirit, for instance. He graduated with my youngest daughter, and she is now mid-30s, and he's still showing up at games, and I'm wondering, does John have a job? How does he sustain himself? And so you've always got some unique individuals like that who stand out in a student body. At the pro level, you've got, I think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they've got these guys in hog uniforms and skirts and pig faces, all cheering and acting crazy in the stands. So I don't think there was that much of that unique individualization, rooting for your teams back in my day when I was growing up.
And how do you think money has changed sports over your lifetime?
Well, it's become a great commercial enterprise now at the pro level. I'm real glad that they've kept money out of the college game. It's not until you become a pro that becomes a factor. But I mentioned Ernie Banks as kind of a childhood hero. Back in those days, those guys probably made the kind of money that we see the Lansing Lugnuts making today, $12,000 a year. I think it was pretty much in keeping with the annual income statistics of the day, but that obviously has gone off the charts in this day and age, where you'll have professional ball players making far more than the President of the United States, let's say. And perhaps the only people who make more than professional athletes these days would be very top-level executives in financial services companies and stuff like that. So that has definitely changed since my day.
And how has the role of sports changed over your lifetime, both for you and for society?
Well, I think it always has been a cause for personal pride on the part of the participants, and it has always been a source of pride on the part of the people who were related to the schools that sponsored the sports. At the professional level, it was always considered an exceptional opportunity if you ever got to that level where you'd be recruited for a professional sports team. A sport that I've really been involved in from a parent's perspective has been women's gymnastics at the college level. My youngest daughter, Heather, was a scholarship gymnast at MSU,